All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to start. Please do take your seats, ladies and gentlemen. Anyone who's still hanging around outside the hall, please do make your way inside as we will be starting our session right away. All right, a very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Breakout Room 2 on day 2 of Malaysia Digital Week. Are you all hyped for today's sessions, ladies and gentlemen? We had some very good sessions yesterday. Honestly, I learned so much just listening into everything. And today's sessions also proved to be very exciting indeed. We have some wonderful topics and some fantastic panelists to share on those issues with you. I'm Shani Manli, and it's my pleasure to join you again this morning. I've been talking a lot, so apologies for my croaky voice. Okay, today we'll be rounding up key issues pertaining to Malaysia's digital ambitions. Yesterday, we looked into drone technology, our readiness to be a data-driven nation, and the exciting prospects of Web 3 for Malaysia. But today in this room, we'll focus again on track 2, tech enablers. Breakout room 1 is focusing on the tech sector, but this time we're focusing on the areas of talent acquisition, data centers, and cybersecurity, 3 extremely important issues whenever we talk about digital economy. So to unpack these issues, we'll have key players in the industry to share their views. Some of them are already here. All in all, it looks like a very interesting couple of hours ahead in this room. Now, for our first session this morning, we'll try to answer the perennial dilemma that's been raised in most of the sessions we've had over the last couple of days. Where is all the digital talent? Are we suffering a shortage of talent, or is it simply that we're dealing with a mismatch of competencies? This session aims to use the triple helix model to delve into the different perspectives on this issue, and hopefully we'll come out of it with a clearer way to align strategies in our bid to foster digital talent for Malaysia. Now, since this is such a relevant topic, I'm sure you'll all have questions for our panelists, so please do check into Slido using the QR code that we're going to post up on the screen for your questions. Just quickly scan this right now. Any questions that you have during the session, just post them up during the session so that during the Q&A we can pull them up immediately for you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, to chair panel 10, please welcome our moderator for this session, Izzana Salleh, Board of Directors, MDEC. Izzana has been an independent non-executive director of MDEC since December 1st, 2021. She is also a director of Talent Corporation Malaysia Berhad and a member of the SOXO investment panel. Apart from these important roles, I'm very proud to share also that Izzana is also the co-founder and president of Girls for Girls International, a global not-for-profit organization for young women, while also helming Rise Human Capital, where as CEO she is focused on developing talent, making her an excellent moderator for today's session. Izzana, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Shani. I am so delighted to be here, but even more delighted to see all of you and that at least half the room is women. That's always what I look out for, especially in events that are digital economy related, tech related. Got to make sure my girls are out there, right? Okay, so Shani, thanks so much for setting context. Just a little bit before I call my triple helix man up here, why we want to have this conversation today is, as you know, over the last couple of years, the industries have gone through some really turbulent times, especially when it comes to digital talent. We have so many even non-ICT industries like the tobacco industry, renewable energies, environment, etc. We see them transitioning and starting to hire more digital talents. And the conclusion there is that there is an acceleration in digitalization. And based on the data that MDEC has provided, we've got over 260,000 digital talents, and 55% of them are based in Selangor and KL. But what we see over the last 3 quarters of this year is that in Penang, Johor, and Malacca, and Ipoh, they've been identified as states with potential hiring of digital talents because of relatively higher supply against the demand. So today's conversation is really to dig a little deeper with the three different industries, the triple helix that we've been talking about. We want to invite our panelists for today, Nick Naharuddin from MDEC, of course, Vic Waran from OutSystems, and Professor Dr. Ho from Asia Pacific University of Technology and Innovation. Gentlemen, thank you. I love the fact that I get to moderate and say I've got my manifestation of the triple helix right here. So let me introduce a little bit about yourselves to our audience today. I went through your background and it's extremely impressive. I'm humbled and honored to be able to have this conversation with you. Let's start with my colleague over there, Nick. Nick Naharuddin heads the Digital Talent Department at MDEC, and his main responsibility is to drive efforts towards meeting current and future needs of digital technology talent through synergistic collaborations between academia, industry players, and the government. The various initiatives that you probably have had touch points with that's run by MDEC have benefited current and future talents across schools, tertiary education, as well as the existing workforce. Thank you, Nick, for all the effort that you and your team put in. I know there's a lot that you do. We've got our very distinguished Vic Waran, who's the country manager for Malaysia and Brunei of OutSystems. And I love this profile. From the evolution of infrastructure, networking, security, consulting services to the transformation of business applications via SaaS, Vic Waran has always been the enabler of Malaysia's changing IT market. After spending more than 19 years in the companies such as Microsoft, Oracle, HP, and IBM, he's excited to represent OutSystems, the high-performance, low-code platform empowering every company to innovate through software. Thank you so much, Vic, for being here. And of course, Professor Dr. Ho, who is the Vice Chancellor of Asia Pacific University of Technology and Innovation. He's also a fellow at the Yangtze Delta Region Institute of Tsinghua University, China. He has over 15 years of experience across various senior leadership positions in academia. Dr. Ho has worked with clients from numerous industries and government agencies, where he led the design, development, and delivery of solutions spanning the areas of smart services, IT master planning, network fault analysis, and data analytics. So as you can see, I'm really here to facilitate the best brains in this business. So thank you. Let's keep this casual, if that's all right. Maybe loosen up a little bit those shoulders. All right? Okay, so why don't we get this conversation going with Nick? Okay, since you're the furthest from me, let's bring you a little closer. Nick, maybe you can share with the audience, what are some of the macro-level interactions that you or MDEC have developed and implemented as an enabler for the Malaysian digital talent ecosystem? Let's start there.
Morning. Assalamualaikum. Thanks, Izzana. So MDEC, we've been in this industry for, over 20 years. And in the beginning, we didn't have this talent initiative as part of our, the things that we do. But after a few years, we realized that the industry really need a dedicated and focused intervention from the government side. So that's why we started, first we started small, but towards the end, until now, we have actually covered the whole spectrum of the talent ecosystem, starting from schools, both secondary and primary, tertiary, as well as into the workforce, right? So, because as Izzana mentioned in my profile just now, we make sure that the pipeline is secured and the existing workforce is also having the right kind of skills which is required by the industry. So at the pipeline, we have instituted a few initiatives, mainly to make sure that there is enough interest from the students at the primary, so that we secure a big funnel, and then making sure that the curriculum and the teachers are also having the right level of expertise to make sure that those students who are interested gets the right kind of exposure to the digital talent. So we started a few initiatives like the My Digital Maker movement, where we have touched through the curriculum and everything, we touched over 2 million students nationwide. This year alone, we are looking at approaching 50,000 of the school children, just to make sure that the pipeline is there. But having this pipeline means that we have to prepare the university to accept these students. So that's why we work closely with the Ministry of Higher Education. And we started this initiative, which we call them the Premier Digital Tech Institutions, where right now there's already 23 institutions, universities and polytechnics alike, including our very own APU, Dr. Ho. So what we do at this PDTI is that we make sure that the industry have open access to these institutions, so that they can influence the curriculum, they can train the lecturers, and they can interact directly with the students. So the students are being absorbed as their interns, doing projects for the industry, as well as getting gainful employment at the industry, right? So, and after that, of course, at the workforce, we make sure that the current workforce, they are continuously updated in terms of skills. So this year, last year we started the MyWIT program, My Workforce Intact, whereby we help those companies who are recovering from COVID to hire new employees and train up these employees. So this is really to make sure that the industry are able to cope and get the right kind of talent. And we also have, through our industry partners, we also have other initiatives such as Let's Learn Digital, which is a free training where public and students alike can go in and get the latest content, which is prepared by the industry, and in return they get digital badges and all that. So this is also to help the students, become more employable. So, and we are doing all this not on our own, but through the Triple Helix. So that's why we work closely with the university, and we are very glad that we have strong industry partners assisting us. We have established the TEN, the Tech Expert Network, where this Tech Expert Network have been advising the universities on what kind of content should go into the curriculum, and have been advising us in terms of what sort of trainings are in demand and should be offered to the public. So that's as an intro.
In my short experience at MDEC, I have to say the amount of programs that they have for industry, for our people, is immense. The only thing is they have to come and see what you have to offer. It's really amazing. Thank you so much, Nick. I have a few questions, but in the interest of time, I'll do that in the next round. Thanks for that, setting that foundation right there. Dr. Ho, if we can come to you and speak to you from the university's perspective. So post-pandemic, how do you actually curate your curriculum in a way that we can ensure the students are well equipped to join the industry after they graduate? We have a lot of very outspoken young people these days, and they say, oh no, there's no space, there's no jobs for us, etc. Is this actually a mismatch? What are esteemed professors like you doing to ensure they get to plug in well?
Sure, thank you, Izzana. I think it's a very good question. Let me start by saying this. From a higher education industry perspective, we as in, I can speak for my own institution, how we do things. We got to get the mindset right in the sense that the goal of higher education is actually to ensure that we have good talents going into the industry. So our clients, higher education clients, if you want to have it, is actually the industry, right? So we got to make sure that students who come in are trained as professionals going into industry. Now this mindset, if I mention the goal of higher education is just to give a degree to students. So you see the difference? If we work on the mission that look, right, my goal is actually to make sure that industries in Malaysia, right, have the right talent, quality talent, that will drive me to ensure that my curriculum, or the curriculum higher education, is geared towards that, right? So starting off with the right mindset, with the right mission is so important, right? Because it drives what you do in higher education, right? Now, having that right mindset, then we move on to the question of what should we put in curriculum, right? So it's interesting you brought up the issue of pandemic. I think this question has been there even before the pandemic. So pandemic or no pandemic, I think we got to answer this question. And see, one of the, I would call it, these are the key drivers, right? So we got to make sure that there are few elements, right, that are there to ensure that our graduates are equipped for the future of work, right? So putting discipline-based knowledge in the curriculum is no longer enough. Yeah, for example, if you go for a computer science program, well, I think it's fine. We'll teach you how to do program, we'll teach you development. Since Vic is here, we'll teach you how to do a no-code or low-code, development. That's fine. That's discipline. But what is also more important is, to make sure that the graduates who come out, can thrive. And with that, we're going to make sure that in the curriculum we have a few, skills. I personally call it human skills. People call it, skills for the future of work. So things like self-leadership, right, is so important. Things like interpersonal skills, right? Things like cognitive abilities. Because what you learn, in university today, especially in computing, once you get out 3 years from now, it may look a different landscape. So cognitive skills is so important. And I'm always reminded of one of my favorite authors, the late Alvin Toffler. So he mentioned that the illiterate of the 21st century, the illiterate of today are not people who can't read or write. The illiterate of today will be the people who can't learn, unlearn, and relearn.
I love that. That
right?
is so priceless.
So cognitive abilities, we got to teach graduates how to learn by themselves, right? Okay. So to me, these are cross-cutting themes which we must have in curriculum, right? And in a lot of universities, we have seen that, well, how do you teach leadership? Let's have a course or subject in leadership. It just doesn't work that way. You can't teach leadership in class. So the challenge then is how do we incorporate in classroom learning and outside of classroom learning to make sure that students have these skills, right? So these are what I call cross-cutting themes which must be there in curriculum, must be measured, right? In addition to your discipline skills, like whether you're an engineer or you are, a computer scientist, right? And I was just talking to Vic, down there on the floor, and what is so important these days, university got to catch up with what is out there. And these days people are talking about ESG, right? People are talking about EDI, your equity, diversity, and inclusion, right? So we got to find a framework to put that into a curriculum, because the next time when you come out, the graduates, are going to apply to a company and they will just ask, what do you know about ESG, right? Because landscapes are changing. So you got to make sure that elements such as this are incorporated in the curriculum, right? And let me get to the, so now if you want to see, well, if you ask, well, how do we actually do this, right? What would the curriculum look like? So to me, the curriculum of future is one that is fluid, right? You got to put your basic skills there, that's fine, okay? But what is so important these days is also, remember, students of today aren't like us when we were studying 30 years ago, where, the school will just say, this is your program plan for 3 years, you got to follow it from day one until where you graduate, right? So students these days, they want choices. So we got to balance skills which are required in industry versus, options, choices. So a fluid curriculum will allow a student to, for example, if I'm computing, right, I may want to take, let's say, a minor in psychology, right? So these are the skills that allow students to thrive out there, interdisciplinary skills, right? I could take computing, for example, with a bit of accounting, right? So that is giving an interdisciplinary flavor to the curriculum, which I think is lacking, but it is important. And thirdly, which is also important, is that we got to give some what I call technically is called free electives, right? So for students who, let's say, want to build up a career in data center management, so we can take a series of, let's say, certifications from AWS or whichever vendor, right? Or for the purpose of, let's say, low code or no code, right? I want to take some certifications, let's say, from OutSystems or whatever. So we got to give that options and choice for students to see where are the strengths and you know, their preferences. So I would say the curriculum of future got to be, you know, have all these cross-cutting themes, your basic discipline skills, you know, plus options and choices for students, guided, okay? We don't have an empty page where the students can choose anything and then it become what we call roja, right? So, yeah, so in a way, you know, a lot of things, we can be very excited, and in terms of regulatory, I think we can do that, right? We even have, you know, people where, students where, you know, my university doesn't offer this course, but I can go to another university or Coursera just to take the course and transfer over. So this is flexibility and, you know, fluidity. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ho. Every time you said something, I had a question, and then you answered it, so that's why I just kept nodding there. I like what you say about fluid curriculum. I have a 7-year-old nephew whose classes are structured in a way where he chooses what he wants to learn. And one of his classes was a coding class. So there I am, auntie in 30-something age. I'm learning coding with him because it was very interesting. And, you know, this is the future that we're developing. So thank you so much for being one of our educators. With someone like you there, I have greater assurance that our future is secured. So moving on to the industry part of our Triple Helix, I have to share with you, my undergrad 20 years ago was in biotech, studied overseas, but when I came back, I couldn't find a job in the field. So it kind of makes me question my choice 20 years ago. But my question for you, Vic, is how do you, as an industry expert, establish your organization's talent pipeline? Do you work closely with institutions? How do you partner with local institutions? How do you partner with overseas institutions? I'd love to know a bit more how you and your organization think.
So thank you. Is it working? Yeah, all right. So just like yourself, I wanted to do accounting, ended up doing software engineering, right? So how it turns out to be. But to the one point that I kind of picked up earlier was the fluid, or in my terms, I always like to preach the agility, the agile. In today's, I'll come back to the question that you raised, but where I'm getting to is, while what Prof said that you are doing, as an example, a computer science, at the same time, how nice will you have another skill or expertise on accounting, finance, or economic, whatever not? Because today, as to the point where you're asking the industry needs, it's just not a digital talent, and also they need an industry subject matter expert. A combination of both will be great, right? So we realize multiple gray areas today, right? Talent shortage always been there. That's what Nick said. And we are trying to address that. But more importantly, OutSystems Malaysia, or from the previous companies that I've worked with, right? Across Malaysia, across the region, what we are seeing is there's always a very quick turnaround, getting resources from other countries and regions, and how do we really have this in-house in Malaysia, right? To always advocate, always upskilling them, or always getting them a better progress. These are the key elements, right? So in specific to what we do today is we provide a technology platform, right? Which comes to the topic of digital talent. What is digital talent in a very broad manner is today they look at flexibility of working environment or working culture or working from home, as an example. Some of them do not even go to office at all. Or, so these are the things that people are looking at, that They want a good work-life balance, while they are also enjoying what they are really accomplishing with their job. It's just not about the skill set, just not about the outcomes. It comes from top down of the company itself, right? Drives talent to be loyal, which decades ago, of course, we see talents being there for 10, 20 years. These days, 1, 2 years, as an example, right? So how do you drive this? It's just not one thing or two things. Agility, having multiple skill sets. That will be an amazing thing. I really love that point. Because sometimes when our customers, right, like our platform is industry agnostic. We have clients who uses from financial sectors, from telecommunications, from government agencies, from energy, utility, oil and gas. There are developers, there are talents needed. How nice if you have that additional subject matter expertise of, let's say, on the financial side or the supply chain side, and exposure to multiple other technology sets out there. IoT, blockchain that Ray and Vincent was talking earlier, right? A lot of spectrum of things. Am I taking too much of time? No?
Never. Information's always good.
So, just to summarize that point is, the key point is we need to be agile ourselves, right? As a company, as a person that we are planning to hire, the customer's needs today, right? We need to be flexible enough to make them, right, give them an opportunity. Whatever that we have to upskill in OutSystems, all publicly available for free, as an example. Most of the international technology vendors are providing that. So students are, let's say, fresh graduates, so they want to take it up. It's already made available, right? To upskill themselves further, certified, or get a better structure. They can always work with universities like APU and so on. So there's always a journey. There's always not a one single rule, but it's always about mindset, right? Just like I always like to talk about this example, how like my 80-year-old dad still walks into a bank to do his banking transaction. My 77-year-old mom uses Maybank to you in a mobile app, as an example. There's two, even though not much of an age, but difference, but you see how agile things can be, right?
I think maybe because she's a woman and very, I'm just kidding.
I would not deny that. But again, just a perspective on that, all right? Yeah.
Thank you so much. I want to go back to Nick. Now you've heard the university and the industry, and the same theme I hear, which is agility, fluidity, making sure that the skills cuts across sections. So how does a big agency like MDEC ensure that you're able to take what the university is trying to institute into our future generation, and also what the industry is looking for? How do we at MDEC ensure that this is part of what we preach? How do we ensure that it's not your traditional, government's known for that kind of stereotype? But I know that MDEC doesn't live by stereotype. You challenge convention. So how do you institute that?
Hello. So yes, definitely agility, fluidity is something that we try to preach to all our partners. So in this sense, I think because of our long-standing work that we do in this arena, we have been recognized by the relevant ministries, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Higher Education. So, for example, the Ministry of Higher Education, they have recently rolled out this new framework. They call it the Excel framework. So, within this Excel framework, it's like an embodiment of fluidity. They're trying to embed this fluidity into the university curriculum and delivery structure. So within Excel, there are 4 tracks. One is emphasizing on industry experience. So they try to expose the students from year 1 to the industry, and even in some cases, either the full 1 year of the student is based at industry. So this is really embedding, getting the industry into the learning experience. So by the time the students graduate, they are ready to straight away jump into the industry, right? And they also have the 3 other tracks. One is on the focusing on research. One is focusing on CSR type of activities. So and one is on like entrepreneurship and all that. So I think we have managed to work with the ministry to embed all this into the curriculum delivery. So I think to that extent, the ministry have responded and they have recognized the need for them to change. But having said that, it's impossible to, you know, really make the student like industry ready at day 1. I think through this they have shortened the learning period of the students from, let's say, 6 months into maybe 1 month, like that. So the industry still need to play their role,
Of course.
and be ready to accept and you know, embed and culture the students into their fold.
Great. Thank you so much. It's an everyday effort, right? It doesn't stop there. You can only build the foundation, but like Dr. Ho said, the illiterate of today are those who are not able to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And I think that's a great ethos in this day and age. I've just got one more question, which I'd like to ask both Dr. Ho and Vic before we go to Q&A. Ladies and gents, don't forget, earlier our MC mentioned that you should key in your questions for our panelists onto the Slido iPad, and I'll ask that in a couple of minutes. But before we get there, Dr. Ho and Vic, a couple of months ago, there was a real big kerfuffle about Brain Drain 2.0. And in your respective sectors, the university that's producing our students who are leaving and the industry who's, they claim, not ready or don't have the space for them. How do you feel we can circumvent this Brain Drain 2.0 that is happening? How do we ensure that great talent either is retained in Malaysia or comes back to Malaysia so that we can build this nation together? I direct this question to both of you, whoever would like to go first.
Yeah, of course, from the higher ed perspective, you know, we think of ourselves as producing talent, whether for the country or for the world, for that reason. Of course, we love it if, you know, our talents can stay back in Malaysia and work. But you know, I think after the pandemic, the way how we do work have changed, right? I was just you know, having this talk with Nick just before here, and we see a lot of companies, for example, in the US or even in Europe, allowing people to work in Malaysia online remotely. So how attractive is that? You know, so the question is that, are we competitive enough to attract talents to work with, you know, companies who are here in Malaysia? Because, you know, it is free trade, right? So this is something which is challenging, and because of that, as you said, we have a brain drain, right? And how we wish there are more students coming into our system, right? And one of the challenges which I think we face and we get questions from students is that look at international students, right? Recently, if you read in papers, some countries have loosened up their rules for international students who can stay back to work. In Malaysia, it is a bit difficult to do that. So we have a lot of good international students, good talents coming to the country, right? We train them, they're good. And when they graduate, they go back, right? We are not able to tap into this group of people for the country, for our country, to develop our country, while other nations are doing that. So I think that is from another perspective, right? So I don't have the answer as to how to arrest the brain drain. What is good is that, you know, if our graduates are able to get employment in many places, that shows that we are producing good talents, right? But do consider our international students who are already here on our shore. They are good talents as well.
So
right?
retaining
Yeah.
that talent, the international
exactly.
talent that's come in. Thanks, Dr. Ho. Vic, from your perspective, and if I understand you want to show some slides after.
So thanks. So the thing is, even I asked myself, right, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when I was part of this industry, right, when I would love to go overseas and work, exposure. It's a good thing, right? But how do we ensure there's no talent shortage here, or the expertise here, right? And perhaps I would like to just kind of go through with a slideshow. Let me know if you can see the screen. Is it being presented? No?
Can we get some help to ensure that the slide is projected up here?
Beautiful. Can see, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
all right.
they can.
So as you can see from this slide, we are working with a bigger consortium on OutSystems Malaysia education program, right? The more important is about, you can see it's written on a red highlighted, preparing tomorrow's tech leaders today, in the conjunctions of tackling the talent shortage. So we are working on this program with MDEC, MITE, Solar Energy, Petronas, and tech alliances like FPT and AWS, as to not only get them trained, certified, but also getting a job placement. That is the key outcome that we are looking at, right? Of course, the program, it is being customized, is being offered to the fresh university graduates at the moment as a phase 1 that we're looking at to kick it off. There'll be multiple other phases that will be coming up for, let's say, women in coding or a single mom and whatever not. Let's say in US, what we have done is coding for black women as an example, or single moms, and multiple other perspectives. But just to summarize quickly, there are step-by-step for students to get enrolled as they go through multiple stages, and this, we take it very seriously. So stage 1, you can see, they do not, it can come from different faculty, not necessarily from computer science. You can come from psychology or engineering or anything. And you build the first app with us immediately on a low-code platform. And that will entice or tells you, the students as an example, oh, this is something that I'm interested, or I'm not interested as an example. We do not want to waste time. For those who really think, oh, this is my next big thing, they go to stage 2, which is a self-paced online learning, right, with a coach. And after they complete it, building serious applications, like how MDEC and our customers have built thus far, right? And once they go through this, so this, why we do such a phase? Because it shows commitment from our students, right? That's the key. And they appear for the exam. For those who have successfully passed the exam, which is a OutSystems Reactive Developer Certificate, they will be given an interview, a job, placement, or internship program immediately. All right? So just to summarize, before that, this is something that I want to give a shout out to MDEC, that how MDEC have leveraged working together with OutSystems. Saya Digital or MD Malaysia Digital Platform was rebuilt from ground up in 7 days, Saya Digital. And Malaysia Digital was done on just within 4 months. So that was a record breaking, which initially was a year or two old kind of a project. So I wanted to know that we are serious about the student program, who are capable. Our customers, our partner ecosystem in this country, in other regions, are needing such talents, and we are there to support. For those who are interested, please sign up and share with your wider network. Yeah, more than happy to take more details after the event. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Vic. So we've got the QR code up on screen, or no more. Well, there you go, it's back. If you would like to get more information, do open up your smartphones and scan the QR code. In the meantime, Shani, do we have any questions on Slido? We're at the 4-minute mark at the moment.
Yes, we do. The iPad is coming to you now. We've got 3 or 4 questions, but most of them seem to be centered on the retention of talent.
Thank you so much. I went from analog to digital immediately. Okay, we've got a few questions here. I've got 4 minutes. I'll do my best to address them to our panelists. So this is a question I'd also like to ask, mostly because I know what's being done. Let's have this addressed to you, Nick. There's no names here, so everyone's gone anonymous. The question is, what has MDEC done so far to make sure inclusivity and diversity is one of the important factors in talent development?
Yes, so as part of our initiative, whenever we run our program, we always make sure that we try to cover all the various levels of people that we have in Malaysia. Because, for example, when we work with universities, we not only work with the public universities, but we also work with private universities. Because the diversity, the different type of students in both types of universities are quite diverse. So in our programs, we make sure that we cover both sectors. And when we work with the schools, we also make sure that we go to all states in Malaysia, and we are cognizant of, in our program, we make sure that we try to cover all the B40s as well. And we also have a specific intent or trust to make sure that the people that we touch in terms of gender equity is there as well. So we make sure that students are both female and male and all that. And not only that, in terms of developing the lecturers as well, the teachers, we make sure that, we cover everyone. So if you go to even places in Sabah, we have our Cikgu Juara Digital, also in Sabah. And Cikgu Juara Digital is like our ambassador. So they speak on our behalf to the general population. So we make sure this Cikgu Juara Digital, we have, from different backgrounds, different ethnic groups and all that. So we cover all those as well. And when we, even dealing with, because apart from this talent for the industry, we also touch the general public as well. So in those general public, in the Salleh digital portion, we cover all ethnic backgrounds as well, all states, so that all Malaysians have equal access to the digital tech. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. And also just to add in on that, I know that MDEC's, in terms of the beneficiaries, over 55% are women, in terms of your participation, as well as the beneficiaries itself. And MDEC has set up an ESG policy and also signed up with UN Women's Empowerment Pledge, if I'm not mistaken. So I know for a fact that they are very active in the DEI space. The rest of the questions, actually, very interestingly, are all worries about brain drain. Specifically with regards to competing against Singapore, and what are we doing or what can be done to ensure that the currency depreciation doesn't make us lose more talent? I'm going to let both the gentlemen, whoever would like to speak up first, manage this. The question is 2 things. One is, how do we stay competitive against countries like Singapore, and how do we manage this currency issue that would probably encourage our young ones to leave? And then we'll wrap up the session.
I'll let Vic handle the hard one, but I just want to highlight that, in many higher eds today, students are more and more exposed to entrepreneurship. So there is a group, there are students, who have this passion to do something impactful, becoming an entrepreneur. So I think we are doing quite well in terms of the ecosystem to encourage these sort of students to build themselves to entrepreneurs. So these are this group of students who probably will not go anywhere else. They want to focus on building their enterprises here, and when they're successful, they will expand overseas. So I think this is another facet that we got to look at, other than looking at creating talents for industry, but creating people who can create jobs. We got to nurture this group of people, and I believe these are some of them are very bright. They want to do something useful. They just don't want to, work for a large corporation and so on. So we do have this group of students, and we got to make sure that we put in the right facilitation, the right incentives for them to stay and grow their business. So I think this is one aspect that we got to work on, to avoid. So they will not be draining. They will be here creating opportunities. So let's develop this group of people as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Ho. So Vic, he left you with the tough one. How do we stay competitive against Singapore? If there's any Singaporeans here, sorry, but we got to do what we got to do.
Again, this is just my perspective. If you have an opportunity in Singapore or any other countries, right, go for it. Get the exposure, get the experience, get the money, whatever that entices you. Come back. Give it back to the community. Give it back to the country, right? And trust me, we have the new generations studying in UK or different part of the world. They're getting jobs there from multinational companies. And I talk to their parents, and they say they will come back after 5 years getting experience. Of course, the currencies, today when you talk about specific to currency, there's no specific answer to it, right? If money is what entices you, please go for it. But you have to always have a long-term, short-term, mid-term kind of a thought process. Really, if you want to work in different countries, you want to migrate, that's a totally different topic altogether. But if you look at what exactly entices you, I did work in other regions. I came back. I try to provide back value here, driving this such education program for Malaysia together with a bigger consortium. That's what excites me. So we need to look at the bigger perspective for the new generations. Yeah, it's always not about money, work-life balance, digital talent, as we spoke about. What does really entices you? What can you really deliver? Like what Prof and Nick said, it's about when you're working for a company and the culture fits you, the work-life balance fits you, the kind of flexibility fits you, and among a lot of other things, right? You got to have that plan and work backwards towards it. I'm not saying not to go for it, come back.
Thank you so much. So with that note about coming back to develop the nation, thank you so much, gentlemen, for sharing your thoughts and perspective on this very important topic on talent development. Thank you, ladies and gents, for affording us that extra few minutes beyond the timer that has gone off. Shani, back to you.
Thank you so much, Izzana. And of course, thank you so much to our panelists, Vic, Professor Dr. Ho, and Nick Naharuddin, for your insightful comments. I managed to actually round up so much information from that, which I will share with you in just a bit. Now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again. A big round of applause to our moderator and our panelists. Now, if you have any feedback on this session, we'd love to hear from you. Please do scan the QR code on screen that we're going to put up right now and help us improve by sharing your thoughts via a quick survey. All right, allow me to quickly summarize the session for you, ladies and gentlemen, before we dive into our next topic. Now, our triple helix, consisting of our 3 experts here representing academia, the government, and the industry, spoke about what was needed to ensure Malaysia has a sufficient supply of digital talent to match the growing needs of the digital economy. So, the data has shown that there are more than enough vacancies, so jobs are available, and there is also enough supply, with Penang, Johor, Melaka, and Ipoh showing that they have relative higher supply of digital talents against demand, okay? So it's not really a shortage that we're dealing with here. The main challenge is actually ensuring the talents are sufficiently competent to meet the needs of the industry, and that Malaysia is able to retain those talents for Malaysian industries. So several MDEC initiatives such as GLOW, Global Online Workforce, and My Digital Workforce were aimed at matching digital freelancers with employers facing a labor shortage while reskilling talents with the right competencies currently needed by employers. And of course, from academia, the goal of higher education now must shift to ensuring the right talents are sufficiently trained to start jobs being industry ready. So the Tech Expert Network has been advising what content needs to go into the courses, while universities have also been including soft skills, ESG, and free electives as a natural evolution of tertiary education. Finally, on retaining talent, our panelists shared that actually encouraging digital entrepreneurship amongst graduates will help retain them here while also creating local jobs. And secondly, that global exposure is good, but the challenge is to attract those talents to come back to the country. And it's not just about money, it's about the quality of life and culture that Malaysia has to offer as well. So lots of things to process and think about as we move into our next session today. I hope you enjoyed that session, ladies and gentlemen. Our panelists are still here, so if you do have other things you wish to ask them about our talent mismatch and what we can do to help with that, please do feel free to meet them here in the hall. All right, ladies and gentlemen, up next for our next session.